Hi, and welcome back to Mary Trump Media. Mary's still on the mend, and I hope my little sister gets better. I'm sitting in for her today. I'm Brian Karam. We got a lot to unravel today. It's been quite a day, from an Air Force One gaggle where Donald Trump says Jeffrey Epstein stole young girls from Mar-a-Lago to possibly Ghislaine Maxwell testifying before Congress. So let's dive in. Hi, I'm Brian, and let's get to it. Today, in a gaggle that just concluded on Air Force One, Donald Trump admitted that Virginia Giuffre was stolen from him at Mar-a-Lago. Listen in.
Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. I'm just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them
young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken, and it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad, but that story's been pretty well out there, and the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do?
In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago, and people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
Giuffre was a teenager at the time and a former Mar-a-Lago employee and an Epstein accuser who spoke out publicly. And in fact, she supported those who had been tragically destroyed by him. And tragically, Giuffre died by suicide in April. So, in a horribly botched attempt to downplay his connection to Epstein, Trump revealed that a known victim of this sex trafficker who used to work for Trump was the reason his friendship with Epstein ended. She was just 17 when this happened. It boils down to this, folks. The more Donald tries to explain away his relationship with Jeff Epstein, the more explaining he needs to do. For instance, yesterday, Donald said his friendship with Epstein ended because a financier poached employees from Mar-a-Lago. Now, obviously, all sane people wonder why it was the hiring practices that made Epstein persona non grata and, not the sex trafficking. This, of course, made people want more information on the strange hiring situation. And meanwhile, Donald told reporters yesterday he didn't have this is his words, privilege to be invited to Epstein Island. Most people say that would be a curse, but Donald is having a hard time with his PR machine lately. So now I'll say the words that have become our daily refrain. We have additional new revelations about the Epstein scandal. This afternoon, Bloomberg Law reported that Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell has been denied, thankfully, immunity when she testifies before Congress. Maxwell is scheduled to testify before the House Oversight Committee next month. On Tuesday, her lawyers sent committee chairman James Comer a letter demanding that her client be granted immunity in exchange for her testimony. She's in prison. She's a convicted sex trafficker, and she demanded it. Comer's office released a statement denying this request, and Maxwell is scheduled to testify before the committee on August 11th. And remember, Donald's deputy attorney general met with Maxwell in person over 2 days last week, and Donald has hinted that he hasn't ruled out pardoning this convicted sex trafficker. Donald is willing to set free the very people he swore he'd take down during his campaigns. And it's all because he was friends with Maxwell and Epstein, and of course, Maxwell has dirt on him. But Trump surely doesn't understand the public relations debacle that will follow pardoning Maxwell. Listen closely, Don. No one wants to see a convicted sexual predator get a pardon, and she aided and abetted the most infamous human trafficker of underage girls since the Emancipation Proclamation became law. It may be the tie that binds, folks. It's certainly the first time both sides of the political aisle have said the exact same thing. MAGA members I spoke with say they don't care. They want the Epstein files released. Democrats, they're saying the same thing. And the Epstein updates just keep coming. We have an update tonight on the controversy over the so-called missing minute in the Epstein jail surveillance video when the Justice Department and FBI released 11 hours of footage earlier this month. People quickly noticed a 1-minute gap just before midnight on the night that Epstein died. The government called the footage full raw video, but the time stamp jumped forward and conspiracy theories exploded. Now, to the surprise of no one, it seems that the government was once again lying about the tape. CBS News has that report.
We have a major development in the Jeffrey Epstein case. CBS News has learned the missing minute from the Epstein jail video before his death back in 2019 may not be missing at all. Earlier this month, the Justice Department released nearly 11 hours of surveillance footage from outside Epstein's cell. Now, just before midnight, the time code jumped forward on the screen. A government source now alleges the government has a copy of that video that includes that minute, but it's still unclear why the section was missing when the video was first released.
Obviously, this information raises new questions about why the public version was altered and why the government has been insisting that it is raw footage when it clearly is not. And while the government is now insisting the gap was simply caused by an old video system resetting itself every night, video forensic expert, hell, I can tell you, they told CBS News that would be highly unusual and that the released footage wasn't raw at all. It's obviously been edited, you can tell. The file's metadata show it was created in May of this year, that it was 2 separate videos stitched together, slightly sped up, and likely just a screen capture, not the actual export from the jail's video system. The FBI, DOJ, and Bureau of Prisons are all refusing to comment further, and the additional footage that might show these nightly resets still hasn't been released. Folks, I've covered crime. I was with America's Most Wanted. I'm well aware of what raw and edited video is. Having been in television news for many years, it's edited. And it should be exposed, and we should see that missing minute. I feel like Nixon all over again, only it's worse. And now some international news. Today, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke out about Israel's actions toward the people of Gaza. Take a look.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK will recognize a Palestinian state unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire. Last week, French President Emmanuel Macron announced his country will recognize a Palestinian state in September. Now, Starmer says the UK will follow suit if Israel doesn't move toward peace.
So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
This announcement came the day after Donald recognized the starvation in Gaza only by claiming that Hamas is behind the seizing of food for Palestinians. Now, that claim's already been refuted by multiple news sources, including the New York Times. And I'm sorry, I have personal sources there. I know reporters on the scene there. This is not the truth, folks. And I'll remind you, and here's what's aggravating for me about this, that, what was it, day or two before, Donald Trump basically begged Israel to finish the job of genocide. He said, get on with the fight. This is not ending well. This is potential genocide, and there are innocent people, Israelis, and Palestinians who are suffering because of the two most corrupt people on this planet, Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump. And that brings us to the disaster that is Donald's tariffs. Donald Trump loves to brag about his so-called trade deals, but as we continue to learn, many of them don't actually exist, including the one that he said he just made with the EU. That's just a framework, okay? That's just a framework for a deal that still hasn't been inked and signed. Anyway, today, Trump threatened to hit India with tariffs as high as 25% if they don't finalize a trade agreement by his self-imposed August the 1st deadline. This is a familiar pattern. We all know it. Trump makes big threats, claims massive wins, and then the details never seem to materialize. Case in point, the Vietnam trade deal Trump announced with great fanfare nearly a month ago. Trump claimed the U.S. had secured total access to Vietnam's markets and that their exports would face tariffs as high as 40%. Except there's no evidence that the deal actually exists. And by the way, when reporters ask, and we do every day for details, we're told it's none of our business. In fact, we're told these are private discussions and we are not allowed to see them. Today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent actually admitted that he has never seen the paperwork. So take a look.
These deals have been coming pretty fast and furious. At times it gets hard to track the details of them. The Vietnam deal that the president announced earlier in July, I don't think we've seen confirmation, or at least I haven't, as I sit here now, from the Vietnamese government of that deal. Did we get confirmation from the Vietnamese government? Do we have an agreement with them on paper?
I didn't work on that deal, but I assume that we do. Because we've also done Indonesia and Philippines, so I would imagine that.
But you haven't seen that paperwork.
But I don't. That's Ambassador Greer, who is a seasoned veteran with an encyclopedic memory and knowledge of all this, keeps all that.
First of all, tip of the hat to Eamon Javers, who did the reporting and the questioning there. A very good veteran White House reporter, and boy, was that a sidestep by Bessent. He hasn't seen, you've heard it, he hasn't seen a single page of it, and he's counting on someone else with a photographic memory. We all know how that goes. It's not just Vietnam. Reports show Trump's largest deal in history with Japan. That's not binding either, and U.S. officials can't even agree with Japan on what was supposedly signed. This is the Trump trade record, folks. Chaotic negotiations, empty announcements, and even his own cabinet left in the dark, not to mention the American people. And he treats his cabinet no better than he treats us. I repeat, when you try to get answers, and we're not asking gotcha questions, we're just asking for details, this administration simply won't provide it. He's threatening India, he's inflating outcomes, and he's delivering nothing but confusions. So, okay, sit back with that. We got to take a break for our emotional support moment. With the weight of this daily chaos, I know a lot of us like to scream. Me, I just drink heavily and crack jokes. But if you live in Chicago, you're not alone. Take a look.
A Chicago group has found an unorthodox way to let off some steam.
Going in 3, 2, 1.
Scream Club Chicago meets on the lakefront every weekend, where they breathe deeply and collectively scream into the open air over Lake Michigan. Manny Hernandez, a breathwork coach, started this group as an outlet to deal with stress, inviting others to join him on social media. And the weekly therapy sessions are growing in popularity.
What's bringing me back out here really is that there are things I'm ready to let go of, that I finally have an outlet where I can get it out of my system.
I think this is a good way for us to be able to, in a healthy way, release whatever we have going on inside out into the void.
Scream Club Chicago meets every Sunday. All of its gatherings are free.
You know, there was a primal scream therapy in the 70s that John Lennon subscribed to, and so this isn't new, but I will just say, you can rename scream therapy the White House press corps, and you kind of get the idea of what we go through on a daily basis. In fact, I thought I recognized some of my friends standing there by the side of of the lake, but maybe it's just me. I'd scream loudly, but I don't want to blow out the mic. Anyway, so let's go to some of your comments. Vitter Vader 74 Larson is a new member. Linda Hill, new member. Cullen Bahag, new member. I hope Colleen. Donna McMullen, does anyone else feel that their head has exploded all over the ceiling from all the nonsense going on in this country right now? How long can this possibly keep going on before it hits a wall? This is dystopian. Yes, I see you must be a White House press reporter, Donna, because that's often I'll tell you the honest to God's truth. In the first year of the first Donald Trump administration, I called it the 1,000-yard stare, right? After a while, it's like what veterans get from combat. They come back empty-eyed and just staring into space. And it took about a year for me to get there during the first Donald Trump administration. We still have 1,270 days left to go in this Donald Trump administration. We're just 175 days in, something like that. And I can tell you, folks, I've seen a lot of 1,000-yard stares. It is dystopian. But as Mary has said repeatedly, there's no worst with Donald Trump. It only gets worse. Greg Bender, thanks for the $2. What are the permit to preach at federal workplaces? What of the permit to preach at federal workplaces? I'm unaware of the permit to preach at federal workplaces. Of what do you speak? I preach often at a federal workplace called the White House, and my preach is holy crap. And then I also preach Galatians 4:15, and of course Matthew 25:40 for all you real Christians out there. Michael Easterwood, $5. My neighbor got mad at me because CL told her Donald is not sending us $600 rebate checks. Well, if you believe that Donald Trump is going to send you a rebate check, well, you may have voted for Donald Trump. Because if you don't see that that it's a grift, you're the mark. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't believe it until I do. It's that simple. Donald Trump will. And by the way, here's the thing. Donald Trump did the rope line Friday. We call it chopper talk. And I confess, during the first administration, I was the one who instituted chopper talk. For the first few months, he would just walk past us like most presidents, stick his hand out and pretend like he couldn't hear us. And then one day as he walked out, I saw the red tie, the white shirt, the blue jacket, the hair waving in the breeze, the large belly. And I swear to you, for all the world, he looked like Rodney Dangerfield to me. And at that point in time, I said, Mr. President, tough room. What are you doing? And he came over and he said, Playboy, what do you got? And from there, we started chopper talk. And he has not done it too much this time as president, but he did 20 minutes of it on Friday. And when he did it, as he was leaving to Scotland, it was a reporter who said, hey, have you ever thought about giving out rebates? And he said, that's a good idea. Great idea. In fact, we're thinking of doing that idea. We thought of it. No, they hadn't. So now you've got reporters making national policy that'll never happen. Blue smoke and mirrors, deflection from the fact that he's involved with Jeff Epstein, the climate problems, all the problems that this administration has. He's going to pretend to buy you off with a $600 rebate check that'll never come. Midas Cheryl gifted one Mary Trump Media membership. Woohoo! Donna McMullen, $1.99. Denied. Absolutely freaking yes. Yes, it does restore. One of my biggest complaints about this administration is less on the administration and more on Congress. Congress has repeatedly bowed to Donald Trump, just turning over authority for everything that they do. So to claw back even a bit of that by denying immunity, that still doesn't mean that Donald Trump can't give her a pardon, but denying her immunity for whatever she may say, restored a little bit of faith, but not much. I got to tell you, not much. Anyway, Blonde Bombsheller gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Not my president. Israel should be charged with crimes against humanity for intentionally starving women and children. I don't know if Israel should, but I do believe Bibi should. And Donald Trump has rare is it that he rebukes Bibi. And he has, in fact, backed him to the point where it's obvious that Bibi's whole goal is to pave over Gaza. Maybe he does want to turn it into a Trump real estate empire option. But nonetheless, it is the combination of Bibi and Donald that have, and do not dismiss what Hamas did by kidnapping and bombing and starting this back in October of 2 years ago. But there are innocent people on both sides, and I've lost cousins on both sides of this conflict. And when the United States could do something about ending the conflict, Donald Trump's not doing it. And that's a fact. Now, I don't know where your political bent lies, and to me, it doesn't care. I don't care. This is a humanitarian problem. And when you see children suffering, damn it, do something. We won't accept child traffickers in the United States. We don't accept that on either side. Good people on both sides of the aisle do not accept and this is what Donald Trump doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that by hiding it, it angers and frustrates many people. I wish those same people who are frustrated about that nationally would understand that internationally. Missionary 100. Remember the days when there wasn't a story about the White House every day? Remember normalcy? No, I cover the White House. I don't. I got to tell you, it's there was a time when it was more staid. But I came of age. My first president that I covered was, unfortunately, Ronald Reagan. And he wasn't normal either. He was, in fact, Ronald Reagan is the reason why we ended up with Donald Trump. He embraced the Christian right. He embraced those who felt like they had been wrong, particularly white men. And he was the one who brought what we have before us now to the forefront. So, no, I've never known. The closest I've ever gotten to normalcy, and people will get mad when I say it, but during the Clinton administration, they had a decent, there were two of the best press secretaries I ever worked with, and people who seemed to care about what was going on. And then the second one, if you want to pick a Republican, I didn't agree with him. I thought he was one of the worst presidents, but he was cordial and professional to reporters. And that was George W. Bush, who was always on time. He told us a bunch of baloney. He lied to us frequently, but he was always on time. Possum of Antica. We had a business. Am I on the right one? We had a business here that let you smash plates. Don't know if it's still there. Well, I've run out of plates, and now I'm working on other dishes. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I do believe that it's there if you stand up for it. I don't believe CBS has. I don't believe that most of regular, I don't call it mainstream, I call it corporate media, because that's what it is. This is mainstream media for what it's worth, folks. But corporate media is a different thing entirely. There's twice the number of people on the planet today as on the day that I was born, and a quarter of the number of reporters. And that's because of the consolidation of our industry. And that, going back to Ronald Reagan, started there. So our business has been constricting and has been dying for 40 years. And it's no longer what it was, and that's a damn shame. But I'll still smash plates, and I challenge everyone to get into good trouble, smash a few plates, stand up. The only way to deal with a bully and Donald Trump is to punch him in the nose. And if you doubt that, I would like everyone, please, for a minute, take a look at South Park. And I don't mean just the very comical 30 minutes, but look what they did. South Park dared Donald Trump to sue them. And that's one person he hasn't mentioned South Park and that satire not once. His administration issued a statement. Donald Trump has not threatened to sue them. Donald Trump has not talked back against them. If you're facing a bully, I would not do it as crudely as they did, and I haven't. I simply stand my ground and ask questions. Damn it, ask questions. Don't go away. Motley Pizzer, you need bagpipes or canned laughter to follow Don around whenever he starts to speak. I always think of the Benny Hill theme, but I can't. Sometimes it's almost impossible to take Donald Trump seriously because, folks, I do notice a change between him now and him then in the first administration, and he's not the same as he was. If you believe that Joe Biden slid into senility. Donald Trump has jumped into it like you jump into the deep end of a pool. Susan Williams, she's in Florida. Maybe they will let an alligator accidentally in her cell. That's such a great line. There's absolutely at least 4 or 5. That's a great straight line and 4 or 5 punchlines that come from it. But I'll just say that you have to remember that she's not going to face any retribution. Where did Pam Bondi come from? She's not going to get an alligator in her cell. She might get a drink and another visit from Donald Trump's wonderful lawyers. John the Heretic, taco, man. I like mine with cheese. Thank you. Plenty of cheese with Donald Trump. Mary Trump Media, Greg is referring to the memo sent by the OBM that federal employees are allowed to preach their religion. Oh, yes. Thank you. That I am aware of. I did not know that was the OBM. Yes, that's what we need more of, preaching in the workplace, because this is a very Catholic thing, mind you, and this was during the first Trump administration. They believe that the freedom of speech and freedom of religion in the First Amendment allows them the ability to preach to you, to proselytize for their faith, and to turn you into their faith. So if you deny them the right to preach to you what they want, then they say you're violating their First Amendment privileges. Not only do they not understand the First Amendment, they don't understand religion. Susan Thompson, I'll just remind people what Jesus actually said about it. Best that you keep your faith to yourself, preach and pray in quiet. Don't do it in public the way the charlatans do it. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the message. Susan Thompson, $10. Brian, thank you for hosting this evening. I still want you to play your guitar. I will. I've got it sitting over there. I'll play my EME D chords, and we'll play a little rock and roll. Greg Bender, if Trump pardons Maxwell, MAGA, and QAnon will go ballistic. Folks, let me tell you something. There's nothing funnier to me than the fact that the QAnon shaman who dressed up like a member of the Moose Lodge from the Flintstones now says that Donald Trump has no credibility. If you've lost the Moose Lodge guy, you've lost QAnon and MAGA, and they will go nuts. You're absolutely right. Blonde Bombsheller, $20. Vote. Take the House. Take the Senate. Take down Diaper Donnie Dementia. Shits in pants. Also support Ukraine. Slava Ukraine. Well, I say you're going to have to do more than vote. I think this time around, make sure that you're registered. Stand in line if you have to. Do it in person. Drive elderly people to the polls. Volunteer to be a precinct captain. Be involved. Voting is the least that you can do. And folks, in this country, we think that a 50 to 55 or 60% turnout is a good turnout. It's not. Do the numbers. In a 60% turnout, that means that 50% plus 1 wins, right? But that's 50% of 60, which is what? 30% of the total vote. So, a super minority is determining for the rest of us who governs. The only way to end that is to get involved, vote, and stay involved. Oh, thank you, Brian. Tell folks where to find me. Oh, well, thank you, Lexi. I will. You can catch me at Brian Karem all over, at Brian Karem all over media, Substack at Reporter's Notebook, and of course here with the nerds whenever we're around. And the big thing, I have a column each week in Salon on Thursdays, soon to move to Fridays, I think. But you can catch me at all of those places. And if you are ever out in the DC area and you want to hear some good rock and roll, you might find me at Hershey's, or you could find me other places just playing rock and roll music, because it's always fun. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and the best to Mary, and best to Lexi, and best to everybody here. Love you all. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, and we'll catch you next time.